Hey everyone, in this voice recording, I'm going to be talking about Roman military traditions. This is part 3 of the series on Roman military traditions, okay? I made previous 2 voice recordings, so this is the third and final voice recording on what I have to say on Roman military traditions. And in this voice recording, I'm going to be talking about 2 other units, the siege unit and the sentry unit, okay, of the Roman military. Okay. Now, in the previous voice recordings, I covered the Praetorian Guard of Caesar. I covered Caesar's legion, okay, and the general Roman military and navy. Okay. I also covered the prefectures and also covered the executioners and jailers, okay? Handlers of prisoners, and also taking into consideration rank, structure, and hierarchy. Now, in this voice recording, I'm going to be focusing on sentry units and siege units in the Roman military, okay? Now, siege units I'm going to start off by speaking on siege units. Siege units are all the heavy destructive equipment, okay, like ballistas, catapults, sometimes, let's start with the simple siege units, ballistas and catapults. Now, there's several others, but that's something you need to speak to the siege units themselves. However, I'm being very basic here. Siege units, catapult, ballistas, operators of heavy equipment, okay, to destroy walls, buildings, enemy towers, or sometimes also to fire flaming catapult objects onto the enemy, okay, ballistas. So that's a separate unit, okay? They also have their own rank and structure, okay? Their own commanding officers, their own centurions, everything. So that's a separate unit, okay? Now, the siege unit exists also with the Roman military, general military, okay? The Reds. The Roman Navy obviously has siege equipment, catapults, ballistas. You need that on the sea if there's trouble at sea. If you're going to do battle at sea, okay, with their own operators, everything. Engineers, Roman siege engineers, all of this comes under the siege units, okay? Engineers, ones to repair catapults, ballistas, ones to construct them, to do maintenance, check them from time to time that they're functioning properly, the equipment, etc. Okay, all the logistics, everything. Okay, so yeah, that's to cover the siege units. Now the Roman military has them. The legion and the auxiliary also will be accompanied by siege units if necessary. Okay, more likely than not, it's always good to have them on standby. You never know when you need them. So that's concerning that, okay? And the Navy, yes, I said that they have that too on the galleys. Now, Caesar's legion also has a siege unit because sometimes, let's just say there's a disobedient governor that has just walled up the city just to repel Caesar's legions. Yes, Caesar also needs siege unit, okay, for Caesar's legions to break through the walls of the city in case the disobedient governor and the disobedient legions of the Reds refuse to surrender, okay? There's some kind of a mutiny going on. So I don't know if to call it mutiny, but more likely it should be called kind of a rebellious attitude, okay? Or some kind of something like that. So Caesar's legion to restore order also has he has his own siege unit, okay, with catapults, ballistas, everything, always on standby, just in case a Roman province gets rebellious, decides to wall up the city with the help of some disobedient legions or whatever coming from the red side, okay? So yeah, now to focus on the sentry unit. Now the sentries are basically the ones that do patrolling on the walls, or they're the ones in the watchtowers, the sentry guard towers. Usually in the cities, if you have walls and towers, you need men to patrol them and to operate the towers. There will usually be a ballista in the tower of any Roman walled city, if it needs to be. It's not that every province will have a walled city, but the provinces that, if a governor decides to wall up his city, construct walls with a sentry, that's another unit, the sentry guard. Okay, now their duties are just to patrol, to be a guardsman on the gate of the city, to see who's coming in and who's going out. Okay, so that's a separate unit altogether. Okay, so this is just to cover these units that I neglected in the previous two voice recordings. So that's all I have to say on the series of Roman military traditions. Look, the color of the uniform of the siege units will depend on whether they're in Caesar's legion or in the general Roman military. If they're in the general Roman military, it'll be red. If they're on Caesar's legion, then it'll be blue, okay? Imperial blue or something. Now, the sentry towers will usually have a uniform, something of similarity to the prefectures or something like that, but they will wear different helmets to distinguish themselves. Look, listen, in the Roman military, the helmets are also a mark of distinction. You have to be able to distinguish one unit from the other. So that's why Caesar's legions will have, look, the helmets might be coming, they will be similar, but with a bit of distinction at the same time, not so drastic. For example, Caesar's legions officers will wear blue feathers, or light blue feathers or something like that. The general Roman military will wear red feathers, something, or red plumes. Caesar's legions officers will wear blue plumes. Prefectures will not, will have, senior prefectures will wear some kind of a feather also on the helmet. So this is how you distinguish between units. And it's very important to get the education in the legions on how to distinguish helmets and uniforms and able to identify units. That's very important. So it makes things even less confusing and even more simple, and it's very important to pay attention to rank, okay? You need to know who's an officer of high rank, show respect, be obedient, don't be disobedient when your officer issues you an order, and obviously don't be disobedient to Caesar, okay? So rank, structure, and marks of rank is very, very important in Roman military traditions. You have to wear the right uniform. You have to carry the right shields with the right symbols, with the right feathers, the right helmets. Some units will have leather armor. Some have silver-plated armor, as on the chest, etc. Okay? So all of this, taking all this into consideration, it's very important. Okay? The sentry guards have different helmets. The operators of siege, the siege units, they will have different helmets and some mark of distinction. It's not that everyone can look the same when it comes to the uniform. yes, you can have different faces and all that kind of stuff, but uniform wise, there has to be marks of distinction on the unit. You can't just generally put the same helmet onto everyone and the same feathers onto every Roman soldier. There has to be a mark of distinction, okay? Depending on rank, depending on task and duty. Also, same thing applies for the Navy, okay? That's all I have in this voice recording. So you can check out some links in the description box below if you're interested. I'll see you in upcoming videos or voice recordings.